My next guest has written the book on the subject. The title is Shameless Liars, and the man is the same guy you hear every morning here on WMAL, Larry O'Connor from O'Connor and Company. Larry, good to talk to you, sir.
My afternoon drive buddy, Vince Coglianese. It's good to talk with you.
Always, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Congrats on the book. Love it. Shameless Liars, going after the media. It does feel like their power to influence your mind is virtually non-existent now.
Yeah, it's Toto pulling away the curtain, right, and showing what the wizard really is. I think that's what's happening here. And the subtitle of the book is How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. That's the key. You know, I detail some of the most egregious. Honestly, it would be like a 10-volume set if I covered everything the media did during the 2024 presidential election. But I think I focus on the most egregious examples of their propaganda and their lies and the gaslighting. But the key here is, because we do that all the time, right, Vince? I mean, it's kind of low-hanging fruit. We can talk about how bad the media is. The difference this year, and by the way, I could have written this book about how the media lied during a presidential campaign going all the way back to Reagan, I think.
Right.
The difference here is Trump defeated them. Trump won. Trump made them irrelevant. The perfect example is 60 Minutes versus Joe Rogan, right? I mean, a conventional wisdom in Washington, D.C. is always that if you're running for president, you've got to sit down for a 60 Minutes interview. You can't run for president unless you sit down for the 60 Minutes interview. Trump said, for multiple reasons that I detail in the book, hell no, I'm not touching 60 Minutes. They owe me an apology. They owe me a retraction. They owe the transcript of their Kamala Harris interview that they deceptively edited. I'm not going to sit with them, but I'll tell you what I will do. I'll sit for 3 hours uninterrupted, unedited, so the entire world can see me answer questions in real time with Joe Rogan. That interview carried way more weight than a stupid edited 20-minute interview on 60 Minutes. And that's the crux of it. That's how he won. He not only won the election, but he defeated the media in doing so. And we're really never going to be the same.
And you know this, having been in media as long as you have, is that people can detect authenticity really quickly. They can tell really, really quickly whether or not you're telling the truth or you're spinning them. And President Trump has this ability to convey authenticity in every utterance. You know, I like one of the podcast events that I like reflecting on is when he went on that Theo Von podcast. And Theo was talking about his own experience with cocaine. And Trump just kept asking him more and more questions about it. Wait, what was that like? Did you like it? Did you enjoy that? How did that make you feel? And Theo was just explaining all of it. It was totally authentic, totally candid. And it was a really clear picture for voters that there's no way Kamala could do this. She pretends to be hip. She pretends to care. She pretends to be human.
Yeah, 100%. And yes, I do spend a lot of time talking about that 60 Minutes interview. Even before we got the full transcript, we had enough to work with to be able to show what they did and just how bad she was and how they protected her, how they lied about her, and of course how they protected Joe Biden. There's a whole lot in the book about what they knew about Joe Biden. And the most egregious was those 3 weeks in June, starting with the D-Day acknowledgement where he was wandering around the stage talking to people who weren't there, then back to D.C. 2 days later for the June 19th concert where he was frozen, then a fundraiser in Los Angeles where he was frozen, then back to Europe. I mean, to be fair, the schedule was grueling. And for 3 weeks, we all saw those videos. We all saw what we saw with our very own eyes. And the media and the White House through Karine Jean-Pierre and all of the smart set in Washington, D.C. not only said that what we were seeing wasn't real and wasn't true and we were wrong and ageist and ableist to leap to the obvious conclusions we leapt to, but they also said that you and I and everyone at the Daily Caller or at Breitbart or at the Federalist or Fox News, Newsmax, we were actually deceiving the American people. We were, remember the cheap fakes lie?
Yep.
So it wasn't enough to lie for Joe Biden. They also had to slander us and say that we were deceptive right up until that debate when they couldn't hide it anymore.
Well, what was interesting was then they used that very line of attack as a weapon against Biden. So the one that they said you were being deceptive with, when George Clooney all of a sudden writes an op-ed at the behest of Barack Obama in the New York Times talking about that very incident, it became their weapon. It was their cudgel to get rid of Biden because they were trying to figure out a way to ensure long-term Democrat Party power.
It's amazing that all of this. Remember, we're at the end of June after J.D. Vance was chosen, and after the Republican National Convention, Biden drops out, Kamala comes in, and we reach the end of July. And we looked back and said, what in the hell just happened over the last 4 weeks? From the debate to the assassination attempt, the convention, J.D. Vance, Biden drops off. All of this happened in this campaign during this election, and I wanted to get out there and write this book, Shameless Liars, specifically about the media's participation in events.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I want everyone listening to know, this is a self-published book because the publishing industry is part of the problem too. They are part of the media. And my buddy Kurt Schlichter has been self-publishing for years now, and he really guided me through the production process and the finances of it. And if I had gone through a publisher, first of all, most of the mainstream publishers wouldn't have taken this subject matter. Number one, but number two, the book wouldn't have gotten out until late summer. And I wanted this, I started writing it. You know what was the tipping point? What I said, I got to write this book, was when ABC News and George Stephanopoulos settled a defamation suit against Donald Trump for Stephanopoulos lying about Donald Trump in that infamous interview. That was December 19th.
Yes.
And I had this book, 300 pages worth. I had it published and ready for sale by January 28th. That's the power of new media, and it goes well beyond talk radio, podcast, streaming. It transcends to the publishing industry, too. And so I wanted to make sure I stuck with it, with the theme of my book.
And a lot of people say they want to circumvent the publishing industry, and then they just do the ebook. Somehow you were able to do the soft cover, the hard cover. You've got the whole deal. And speaking of George Stephanopoulos, that elfin ABC anchor is depicted right on the front of your book. There's a great cartoon of him running in terror from President Trump, raising his fist in victory after that awful shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it really is amazing. You mentioned the role. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I have to say, I've been telling people they should buy the book just for the artwork. It's original artwork. It's not AI, and Donald Trump is depicted as a superhero here because it was it really was out of Marvel Comics with these villains, these cowardly villains, Joe and Mika and George Stephanopoulos fleeing in terror. Because he won, he defeated them. So yeah, I love the artwork.
So you mentioned, obviously you got President Trump on the cover. You mentioned a moment ago that it was thanks to his efforts that we've put the media in the place that they deserve to be in broadly. Yeah. But also there's a lot of people that have been fighting for this through the years, other than President Trump as well. You reflect, I understand in the book, on Andrew Breitbart's role in motivating much of the conservative media. Can you talk about that, the role that has played in helping to sort of, open people's eyes to the world that they live in?
Gladly. The book is dedicated to Andrew Breitbart. It's the only person I could dedicate my first book to, other than Meredith, that she would allow me back into the bedroom afterwards. But she agreed that Andrew should get the dedication. What we really saw this year with the ultimate defeat of the media, and a lot of this also has to do with Elon Musk and his championing free speech on social media and taking over Twitter and making it the X platform. Much of this was because of Andrew Breitbart. It really wouldn't have happened without him. I've been wanting to write a memoir of my time with Andrew, and I've tried to start doing it multiple times, and there's something about it that couldn't get me past the first chapter or two. But when I focused on the media and this election and shot it through the lens of Andrew Breitbart's legacy, then it all came flowing out.
Yeah. You know something? I think he would prefer that. I think that's a better tribute to him, which is literally carrying
considering
on.
Some of the stories I've got about him, he probably would actually.
No, but I mean it. I mean, carrying on the work that he set out to do. So, he released his book, Righteous Indignation, back in 2011. And I remember it really fondly because at the Daily Caller, we hosted the party for Andrew.
Yeah.
And that book was designed to talk about all of the ways to take on these people we all now acknowledge as our enemies head on. And it was really about, a lot of it was about going after the news media and how deceptive they were and the role that they played in sort of wielding mind control over the country in order to aid and abet the worst possible people. In what you've done with this book is carry on that tradition. I think that's a fine tribute.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and don't make me cry, because I always do when I think of Andrew. My final chapter in Shameless Liars, because you know me, I can complain and whine and bitch like any other talk radio host, but I try to be positive. I try to say, no, there's a light here at the end of the tunnel. There's a way we can fix this. And the final part of the book is really about the new rules, about what Trump has done here and how we can carry forward. Final chapter is titled "We Are the Media," right? Elon Musk is saying we are the media all the time now because of the power of citizen journalism
right.
on X. Well, can I read something to you real fast?
Please.
This was, I did say, because it's like, we are the media. Andrew used to say that all the time. I wonder if Elon knows that. I found the moment. It was a tax day tea party. It was April 15th, 2010. It's in D.C. There's video of this moment, and it's actually part of the movie Hating Breitbart, which is a great documentary about Andrew. And during this rally on the Mall, he asked everyone in the audience at one of these, it was a Tea Party rally on tax day. He asked everyone to hold up their phones, hold up their smartphones. And it was sort of dusk, so you could see the light from all the phones, like you're at a concert. And this is what he said at that moment. I'll quote him. "It's time for a new media revolution, and you are it. You are the media. Hold up your phones. Hold up your cameras. This is the future of media. This is how we're going to fight the lies, the misinformation, and the propaganda of the mainstream media. We are now the media." That was 15 years ago. And, well, here we are.
Big time. Big time. And it makes me think of like parents in Loudoun County, Virginia, holding up phones at school board meetings, capturing images of corrupt politicians and the disgusting treatment that the American people have experienced at the hands of all sorts of people who are misusing their power. He's right about that. It makes me think, there's a reason why he linked up with James O'Keefe and supported them through the years. It's because you had these cameras that could capture moments that the media didn't want to share with you.
100%. And now, James O'Keefe starts Project Veritas. I know he's not there anymore, but they get this video of an EPA employee saying we're throwing gold bars off the Titanic. Lee Zeldin sees it. He asks the new people at the EPA, what's this all about? And we discover this $20 billion money laundering scheme. I mean, it all goes back to what Andrew started back in 2009 with those websites when I was lucky enough to be in his orbit those early days.
So, Larry, the left and the right have very different views about what it means to allow people to communicate freely. So the right's view is, people are going to make mistakes occasionally, but if you get enough voices out there, we're going to navigate towards the truth, and that's the key. The left's view is this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. Who are you? You are not a major corporation. You don't have, a bunch of, NBC people, lawyers standing over you. Who are you to claim to be able to share the news? And it really is, I think, one of the fundamental differences, Larry, between the left and the right. We have a lot of respect for the democratization of media.
That's right. In fact, I do have a chapter. It's called Bypassing the Gatekeepers, and it's all about that. The gatekeepers who want to decide who gets to be on cable news, who gets the $1 million studio and the huge staff to be able to deliver what they believe is the only news that you're fit to see. But now, because of, as you called it, the democratization of the media, guess what? Megyn Kelly, who got fired from one of those big networks, she took her money from her settlement. She opened up her laptop, plugged in a camera, plugged in a microphone, and her podcast is now getting more downloads online than NBC and CBS combined.
Yes.
Because the people are gravitating to it. And this is really important to say. Because of the credentialed class and everybody wanting, who, as you just said, who are you? Who are you? The American people know that we have an opinion. We don't hide our opinion. We don't hide behind this myth of objectivity. We let our listeners and our audience know we have a perspective, and you can take that into consideration when you evaluate the information that we give you.
Of course.
And we trust them to be able to get there.
So how much
ultimate,
So how much of the response to what you're saying from the left, from these major corporations which have controlled so much of the media narrative, how much of it is them trying to protect their political ideology, and how much of it is them just trying to protect their perch? Because it does seem like in a world where the media is this democratized, that in the end, viewership and listenership and readership will be based on merit. If you make the best arguments, if you make the most entertaining product, that's how you succeed. And that does seem very threatening to the people who were able to gatekeep before.
Well, here in Washington, success is measured in multiple ways, I think I've learned over the years, Vince, and you probably know this as well. And I think that there's a combination of things going on with the legacy media. Part of it is they're all products of these journalism schools, and there's an activist agenda in those schools where they're not producing people who are to be good journalists. They're producing people to save the world from the perspective of those professors and the people who are funding those schools. And so when they come out, success is not necessarily measured in every respect by, how many people are reading them, how many people are watching or listening to them, but what they can get done and what they can, quote unquote, fix. That said, And I think that's a big part of what we see with the agenda. That said, sadly, I hate to say it, a lot of the political bias that we see in the media right now, a lot of the choices that are being made, I think they're just lazy. I think they got a good thing going.
Yes.
They got a nice, nice cushy job. They're making a lot of money. Don't upset the apple cart. They got a big, let's just keep doing what we're doing because that's easier. And they're lazy. And I don't think they're really interested in trying anything else.
Yeah, the easiest way to keep the job is to keep towing the company line. That is that's definitely one of those things. Hey, Larry O'Connor, the book is Shameless Liars: How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. Larry O'Connor, you can get it in hardcover, paperback, however you want to get a book. Larry, thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
And audiobook.
And audiobook.
Audiobook, too.
Wait, do you read it?
Yeah. I did, yeah.
Okay. Well, you
Which,
have
by
to.
the way, I don't know if I'll do that again. It wasn't that easy, believe it or not.
I believe you, but you have an obligation to do that because this is your medium, so you can't, shop out the guy who reads the book. It has to be you. I hate to tell you.
No, next time I'm hiring you.
Okay, fine. I'll do that. Thanks, Larry.
But then I'll do yours.
All right, good.
Thanks, Vince.
If I ever write a book. All right, there's Larry O'Connor, the book Shameless Liars.